Next up, ladies and gentlemen, there are two communities, in addition to Canada, with which Sir John A. is inextricably bound up: the United Kingdom and Kingston, Ontario. And we have a word of welcome and remembrance of Sir John from representatives of each of those communities. First, it is my great honor and privilege to introduce the British High Commissioner, Howard Drake. Not only did Sir John A. proudly proclaim that a British subject he was born and a British subject he would die, but when he died, a British subject to the end, he did so at his longtime home, Earnscliffe, the residence today of Howard, and previously to all the other distinguished diplomats who have so ably represented Britain in Canada. Howard.
Well, thank you very much, Brian, for the invitation to say a few words here this evening. And when I'm looking at the programme and seeing the galaxy of talent that is awaiting you, and indeed has already spoken, I can assure you it will just be a few words. And also, I want to thank all of you for inviting me to be part of this marvellous celebration. I have to say that in accepting it, I do feel something of a fraud. There's two reasons for this. First, of course, while as British High Commissioner, and as Brian has said, Sir John A. said he will always die as a Brit, I may indeed be qualified to bring greetings from his birthplace. But of course, I feel I'm only just about qualified because, of course, as we all know, Sir John A. was one of the many fine sons of Scotland, Glasgow to be precise, who has contributed so much to this great country of Canada. And of course, as those of you here who know me and can probably tell, I stand before you a man from the south coast of England. But then again, as the events of last September showed reasonably clearly, we do remain a United Kingdom. Secondly, I'm also only too well aware that, of course, while, as you've said, Sir John A. was born a Scotsman and died a Scotsman, the 200th anniversary of his birth is, of course, very much a Canadian celebration, given the history of a man who, as I learned more and more in my time here, was instrumental in forging the kind of country Canada has become. And as we all know very well, he and his family moved to Kingston, Ontario when he was a young boy. So that means, I think it's fair to say, that he is far less known to most people in Scotland, and certainly Glasgow, than he is here. But he's by no means unknown. And a major conference took place on the actual anniversary of his birth just over a month ago in Glasgow to reflect on the legacy of this remarkable man. Now, as you know, among other things, there is still considerable debate on where exactly in Glasgow Sir John A. was born, and the debate continues. But as we heard at that conference, new research was presented that would seem to strengthen the case for Brunswick Place, where records suggest his father, John, ran a textile business. And as a lot of you probably know as well, many years ago, that building became, for many years, a well-known drinking establishment, the Mitre pub. And perhaps given one of the better known of Sir John's recreational habits, perhaps not an entirely inappropriate setting. Now, one thing the conference has done is raise awareness that there should be a greater recognition in Glasgow of Sir John A.'s roots. There's already a plaque commemorating him at Ramshorn Kirk, where he was baptized, but let us hope that the city of Glasgow takes up the challenge. And as Brian has also said, I do also have one other link to this great Canadian and this great Scotsman. As you've said, like all my predecessors since 1930, I have the great privilege of living in the house Sir John A. called home for a number of years towards the end of his life. And since I dare say there are some in this audience who still think it should be in the hands of Canada, we did pay the fair market price. One of your prime ministers, Mr. Bennett, declined the opportunity. So I'd be happy to educate you more on that, but just for the record. But That being the case, I do want to assure you of two things. First, my predecessors and I have done our very best to look after the house in the way you would all hope. I exclude from that my immediate predecessor, Andrew Pocock, who unfortunately set fire to it one evening. However, it did actually enable us to carry out a major renovation project, which, as you all know, those of you who've been there, was completed just over a year ago, and the place is looking magnificent again, inside and out. Secondly, more importantly, my wife Jill and I are very conscious that we're living in not just a beautiful property, but a special property that means a lot to Canadians. So to the extent that the day job permits, we are very keen to do all we can to open it up to Canadians. And indeed, Jill and I arrived here in the middle of 2013, and we decided that in 2014 we would take part in Doors Open Ottawa. For some reason, the house had not been part of that for several years. And in just over 6 hours on the day we were open, some 1,800 people came through the door and saw, among other things, the room where Sir John A. passed away, the magnificent dining room he added, and I think the wonderful bit of history, the bench which he built on the landing so that his sadly handicapped daughter Mary could see, as she couldn't get down the stairs, could see which great men Sir John A. was entertaining to dinner. And I'm delighted to say we'll be taking part in Doors Open again this year, because we do want people to see this house as much as possible. And indeed, another thing we've tried to do is have a number of dinners for charity, which we're very pleased to say have given a lot of people from Ottawa a chance to see the place when they probably otherwise would not. I don't want to say too much more. The panel discussion tonight will roam deep into Sir John A.'s personality, his achievements, his challenges, and above all, his love for Canada, so I won't seek to try that myself. What I would just like to say is one thing, a very personal thing in closing, which is for Jill and me, for my wife and I. It's on a personal level, I have to say the Sir John A. Macdonald story is adding immeasurably to the wonderful experience we're enjoying in your country. It is, of course, a great privilege for anyone to represent one's country anywhere. I can assure you that to have the chance to do so in Canada, a country with whom in Britain we share so much, values, history, and the warmest of friendship, is truly special indeed, and we are both very grateful. And to be surrounded every day by the history of this great man, Sir John A. Macdonald, who means so much here, is very special indeed. So Brian, thank you very much, and I congratulate the Macdonald-Laurier Institute for arranging this very special celebration in this wonderful museum and enabling all of us to share in it. Thank you very much.